If I was to ask you what cars you think of when you think of Lexus, you would probably tell me premium sedans, premium SUVs. You wouldn't say a small crossover. And yet here we are. This is the LBX, which stands for Lexus Breakthrough Crossover. Okay, crossover starts with a C, but it's supposed to be the cross in crossover, which is the X of LBX. And this is set to be one of the most important cars that Lexus have ever launched. It's going to propel the brand into a wider audience. A wider audience of, well, me, my age group, women, people that have never considered Lexus before. But have they been able to achieve it? The LBX is based on the Yaris crossover, and there's a very interesting thing about the Yaris crossover. It's not known for its refinement, and that's something that Lexus holds so important to the brand. But they promise that they've made some changes to the engine, and I think you'll be really surprised with the results. So if you want to find out if Lexus have done enough to make this a premium small crossover, which will appeal not only to existing Lexus owners, but to a new audience, then please keep watching. And if you like new car reviews and car content, then please don't forget to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and join Auto Social UK. So first of all, let's start by talking about design, because I really quite like this. I actually think, especially finished in white, it has a bit of GR Yaris about it. You've got that wider front, that slightly wider squat look. It looks quite aggressive. It looks a hell of a lot better than the Yaris crossover, I'll definitely say that much. Now, when I saw this car in a studio, I did mention that the wheels looked a little bit small for the car, and whilst I do agree, now in its natural habitat on the road, I do think they look a lot better and it's much more suited to the car. And those smaller wheels definitely offer better refinement, which I'll talk about when I drive this car. It's got very classic Lexus styling in the fact that you've got this front wide grille which blends out into the paintwork. We see this across all the brands, and you've also got those slim daytime running lights atop of the headlights. So it is very, very recognisable as Lexus, but it has its own personality. It definitely looks very different to anything which is in the current Lexus lineup, but actually I think that's a good thing. Also, it comes in some great colours. Nowadays, we're used to seeing really boring, bland colours, greys and whites and blacks. But on top of greys and whites and blacks, the Lexus LBX also comes available in this fantastic red. It comes in a yellow. Well, at least Lexus call it yellow, but I definitely think it's more orange. And it comes in that sonic copper colour. So you've got some really cool options if you want a quirky, stylish car. Moving around to the rear of the LBX, and this is a slightly different design to the front of the car. In fact, Lexus say that this is based off of a Japanese dessert called mochi. And I don't know if you've ever had mochi. It's a fluffy, cloud-like texture dessert. Very interesting choice for the design of a car from a brand who are known for being sharp and stylish in their designs. But actually, they've pulled it off quite well. It is slightly plumper than the front of the car, but I quite like it. And this is where it takes on a far more crossover look. It's slightly higher at the back, and I'm interested to see whether that's going to induce some body roll in the corners, so we'll find out later on. But overall, I quite like the styling. I also like the way that they've used chrome, but they're not fake tailpipes. They almost just hug the corners of the bottom of the car. So let's talk about the thing which is getting Lexus enthusiasts a little bit worked up, and that is what's under the bonnet of the LBX. In here lies a 1.5 litre strong hybrid with 136 brake horsepower, which is also shared with the Toyota Yaris Cross. Yes, not very Lexus, but Lexus assure that they have worked hard on making this engine a lot better compared to the Yaris Cross, and that also includes a new battery. It's now got a larger and also nickel battery compared to the Yaris Cross, and that means it should be able to run for electric longer and then it will mean that the engine won't need to kick in quite as much, making the whole drive a lot smoother compared to the Yaris Cross, which of course I'm going to find out when I drive it. But interestingly, one of the things that I noticed when I opened this up for this shot is the bonnet is super lightweight, really, really lightweight. And Lexus said to be able to use a larger battery and the fact that the nickel cobalt battery weighs a little bit more in itself, they also had to work hard at reducing the weight of a lot of its components. So rather than using steel, they've used a lot of aluminium, and you can definitely already tell. Last night, we were given the opportunity to ask our questions to the people who helped design the Lexus. And everybody had the same question on their lips. Well, everybody but me. I wanted to know why they've called a yellow car orange, but everyone else wanted to know, what have Lexus done to that Toyota Yaris Cross engine to make it, well, Lexus? Because it's anything but Lexus as it stands in the Toyota Yaris Cross. It's very noisy, it's not particularly refined, and with the higher ride height of the Yaris Cross, it doesn't handle very well either, and all of those things are not very Lexus. And the answer we got surprised us, because there's quite an extensive list. It follows on from the all-new RX to become the second Lexus model to benefit from a new high-output bipolar nickel-metal hydride hybrid battery. Response delay is reduced by half, which contributes to nimble, exhilarating performance, giving the kind of high-torque delivery at low speeds that's normally associated with pure electric vehicles. Engine noise is reduced thanks to the addition of a balancer shaft, while the underbody features adhesive, high dampening quality and reduced gaps between parts. On higher grade models, acoustic glass is used for both the windscreen and front side windows, while liners, insulators, foam and other noise absorbing materials are used at strategic points around the cabin. And for all of those cynics that are watching, yeah, there's quite a lot of you, you may be saying, that press pack sounds great, Tish, but in reality, has it really made a difference? Well, I'm really pleased to say that I do think it has made a difference. Even in the first 10-15 minutes that I've been driving this car, you can notice that added size of the battery has meant that it runs in electric for more of the time. It stays refined for more of the time. It does still have that awful personality trait of that 1.5 litre petrol hybrid engine, and that's if you slam your foot to the floor, you do get a really loud sound as you accelerate. If you drive this car how it's been designed to be driven, and that's around town for short journeys, it's brilliant. But what about the slightly quicker stuff? What if you need to do a long journey in this car? Is it still good? Well, I'm also pleased to say that, yeah, it's really good. I mean, even now, if you build up your power slowly, you don't get any nasty noise from the engine. It stays really quite quiet. There's a little bit of wind noise and tyre noise, but actually it stays pretty serene most of the time. I also really see the benefit of those slightly higher profile tyres and the fact that the wheels are smaller as well. It means that it's uber comfortable. It soaks up all of the bumps in the road, and you've also got really comfy seats. It's not absolutely perfect, don't get me wrong. And is it a Lexus? It's debatable. It doesn't drive like a Lexus. It doesn't have that driving engagement that you expect. It doesn't have that refinement. It doesn't have that power that you expect from a Lexus. And you know what? I'm quite surprised with how it drives. I wasn't expecting it to be quite as engaging as it is. I saw the back end and how high up it was, and I was really concerned that that would mean that there'd be a lot of body roll in corners. But it stays pretty squat to the road. I was watching one earlier as I was following it, and you could see the suspension working hard at taking in all the bumps and also in the corners, just keeping that body roll to a minimum, and you can feel it when you drive it. The steering's possibly a little bit lighter than I would expect it to be, but that's its personality. It's a city car through and through, but you can still have fun in it. It takes corners well, the steering is pretty responsive, it goes where you point it to go. Is it as fun to drive as a Ford Puma? I think it's probably on par. And it's no LC convertible, but I'm glad that Lexus have actually developed this to make it, well, quite enjoyable. When I was asked which trim level I'd like to drive today, I chose not the top level because ultimately I like to show you guys the ones that you'll probably actually be able to afford to buy. So this is around the middle specification and the one that Lexus think will be the most important and the one that customers will buy the most of. Inside here, it's pretty good. You'll find lots of leather. Now, I'm not sure if this is real leather or if it's imitation leather. I'll find out. I've got a feeling it's imitation, but we will find out. It's trimmed on the armrest all the way up this centre console. You've got seats which are all trimmed in this leather. You've got the dashboard and quite a lot of the doors, as well as, of course, the steering wheel. And it all feels really good quality. It's nice to see leather down the centre console. They don't always do that. They usually miss that out. And I think that's the Lexus element about this car. There's a little bit more in terms of the premium materials used than the mainstream brands, and that's brilliant. That doesn't mean it's perfect. There are some slightly less good quality materials used, slightly harder down here, and you'll also find that slightly harder material on the doors. But it's really minimal. It really is in small amounts of places. And that means that everything you touch and feel, all the touch points are brilliant. I also like the way you've got this almost kind of brushed metal feel around the centre console rather than using a gloss black. It wears far better. You don't get sticky fingerprints on it, not like you can currently see on the screen. And I'd say that I think this is a pretty good touchscreen. The size, in my opinion, is perfect. It's not too big that it's taking up the entire dashboard and distracting from the driver, but it's just big enough to still feel a slightly more premium product. I'm actually really impressed with this. I didn't think I'd like it that much. The only negative is that it's slightly angled downwards, so you do have to take your eyes off of the road to be able to see this. Small crossovers are not known for space in the rear, and that's exactly the same with the LBX. It's not too bad. It will be perfectly adequate for 2 people, although legroom is a little bit tight, so if you're tall, you might struggle. Headroom's pretty good though, as this car is quite tall, and you also sit up quite high as well. Now Lexus have done this on purpose, and that's so the people in the back can have a nice view out of the windscreen, and I like that. If your kids struggle with car sickness, this is going to help because they've got a good view over the road. The windows are also nice and wide as well, so it's far more practical than in the Toyota CHR. You've got a decent amount of amenities. You've got door pockets, but only on the passenger side, and you've got a couple of USB-C chargers. Now that's really nice to see in a small crossover. You don't always get charging in the back. There's a little bit of storage in the door cards, but it is a bit disappointing that there isn't any pull-out armrest that has any cup holders. But other than that, it's pretty good. You've got 2 more USB-C charge points in the front as well as in the back, and you've got a decent amount of storage. So inside this armrest, as you can see, first of all it slides back and that reveals a cup holder which can actually itself be slid out of the way, and then you can open it up again, and then you've got that adaptable storage which is really nice. There's a further cup holder at the front as well, which I am slightly concerned would get in the way a little bit. If you had a slightly taller cup, then it is going to get in the way of some of your controls on the screen. And similarly, if you put it in the armrest, then it's probably going to get in the way of your arm. But this is where it's quite clever. You can slide that back. So if you slide it back to there, and then hopefully that shouldn't be in the way, although it still does feel a little bit like you might be elbowing it. But actually, in terms of quality and in terms of storage and usability for a small crossover, I'm really impressed. It was never going to be easy in a room full of journalists to convince them that this isn't just a Yaris Cross in a frock. Lexus assured that they'd made all of those changes which have made this car have Lexus refinement, and I'm so pleased that clearly all of that modifications and all of the time that has gone into making this car refined and concentrating on that engine, well, it's paid off. I'm really impressed with this car. I love the styling, I like the interior. It's not perfect, but it very nearly is. If you're looking for a slightly premium, but still affordable to run hybrid crossover, then this would definitely be the one that I would recommend. But let me know, what do you think of the new Lexus LBX? What colour would you pick? I'd personally have it in Sonic Copper, but let me know which ones you'd have down below. I really hope you have enjoyed the video today, guys. If you have, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. If you want to see more, then make sure you hit the subscribe button. And of course, because we're only a few days away from the big day, I really hope you all have a really wonderful Christmas. And until next time, see you later.